Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. Listen, tell you what. Just come across something in the news. I got to get it on the air for you guys because I just came across it about an hour ago. And let's get started. Where are my charts? Hold on just a sec. Okay, let's start the charts right here. Okay, first thing I want to tell you guys about is there's a giant ice sheet in Greenland, okay, right now, and we got a heat wave across Europe, a tremendous heat wave. I haven't seen a heat wave like this before in a long time. I mean, it's setting all-time records and everything all the way across Europe. What we want to talk about here is the Greenland ice sheet. Turns out the Greenland ice sheet is the second largest body of ice in the world. It covers roughly 650,000 square miles of Greenland surface. If it were to melt completely, it could contribute 23 feet of global sea level rise. Okay? According to a new study using data from NASA's Operation Icebridge. Okay, this is the latest data we have on this. Now, let me see where it is. Right here. Europe's record heat wave moves. Now, this story is by CBC News. So, this is mainstream media, of course, this story they're carrying. It says Europe's record heat wave moves toward Greenland, threatening the world's second largest ice sheet. Temperature records weren't just broken, they were smashed, a United Nations official says of the heat wave that is moving north. Okay? A melting iceberg floats along the fjord. Now that's the picture right there. Okay? Now, this is in Greenland. A hot air mass that smashed European weather records this week looks set to move toward Greenland and could take the world's second largest ice sheet close to or below the record set in 2012, the United Nations says on Friday. Claire Nellis, spokesperson for the United Nations World Meteorological Organization, said the hot air moving up from North Africa has not only merely broken European temperature records on Thursday, but surpassed them by 2, 3, 4 degrees Celsius, something she described as absolutely incredible. According to forecasts, and this is of concern, the atmospheric flow is now going to transport that heat toward Greenland, she told a regular UN news briefing in Geneva. This will result in high temperatures and consequently enhanced ice melting of the Greenland ice sheets, he said. We don't know yet whether it will beat the 2012 level, but it's close. Melting of the Greenland ice sheet is a key part of the global climate system and would lead to rising sea levels and unstable weather. Okay, so this is what's happening. This is a picture right now of Europe, and there's Greenland right there, and this is going to evidently drift toward Greenland. This is an amazing story. It's evidently just developing. Greenland has not had an exceptional year until June, but its ice has been melting rapidly in recent weeks, she says, citing data from a Danish climate scientist. In July alone, it lost 160 billion tons of ice through surface melting. That's roughly equivalent to 64 million Olympic-sized swimming pools just in July, just surface melt. It's not including ocean melt as well. It says the Greenland ice sheet covers 80% of the island and has developed over many thousands of years with layers of snow compressing into ice. The dome of ice rises to a height of 3,100 meters, and the total volume of ice is approximately 2.9 million cubic kilometers, which would raise global sea levels by 7 meters if it melted entirely, according to the Polar Portal website. The warmer air also has implications for the Arctic ice. Okay, so here's the nitty-gritty of all this. Even though this is a terrible heat spell in Europe right now, it does go over Greenland. My opinion on all of this is that ice in Greenland is approximately, they're saying here, the ice sheet, they said the thickness of it here is 3,000 meters thick. The dome of ice, it says, raises to a height of 3,000 meters. So it's 3,000 meters thick. If all of it melted, we'd be looking at, what'd they say here, 7 meters? Anyway, if all of it melted, where said the number here, how many feet? Let me just turn the page back. Greenland, it said 23 feet here, it says, of sea level rise. That's if all of it melted. My opinion is, I know this is a bad heat wave and everything, but it's very, very unlikely that it would melt all of it. But if it does drift up over Greenland, it's going to melt some of it. But we have a big problem here, and the problem lies in an awful lot of cities in the world are built at or below sea level. Okay? Cities like New Orleans, I believe New Orleans, if I remember right, I believe it's either at or below sea level. We have a lot of coastal cities, and the reason why is when humanity first developed civilization, they relied upon, for sustenance, not just grains, but they relied also upon seafood for sustenance. And so often they wouldn't move too far inland, because if they moved too far inland, they wouldn't be able to get any sustenance from the ocean. The ocean provided ancient mankind with a lot of sustenance, and it still does today, in the form of fish. They catch fish, and you know, if you're close to the ocean. So settlements were built near the mouth of rivers and tributaries that lead into the ocean, and oftentimes this is what happened, like where the Mississippi leads into the Gulf of Mexico, and that's where and other rivers and tributaries around where the mouth of a river was, and the ocean would be a most suitable place. But generally, these places are low land. Generally, they're very low land, but they got built into huge cities around our coastlines. And so the inland cities that are a higher altitude, people didn't develop them as early on. And, you know, just what, like in cryptocurrency, Bitcoin's got first mover advantage. Well, it's the same way with cities being built. The bigger cities have the first mover advantage. They were there first, and they got developed more. And then people started to move inland, develop more smaller. The cities developed smaller, were the big hubs. An awful lot of the world's population lives in lower areas, and this is the reason why. So, 23 feet of sea level rise would be absolutely devastating. But I do not see that happening, and the reason why is when you get ice that's roughly extremely thick, big, right? It takes a long time for it to melt. It doesn't melt just in a day or two. And so we got this big blob of heat that's evidently, according to the article here, it's moving toward Greenland, and it's going to threaten the world's largest ice sheet, but I can't see it melting at all. But even a partial melt could raise the ocean level somewhat. We're going to have to wait and see just how this plays out. But it's new, it's a new story, and I'm putting it on here because of the potential that it has. It's the only reason I'm putting it on my channel is because of the potential that it has to actually affect. It could affect the world's financial system. An unprecedented disaster could affect the world's financial system, and we're going to have to wait and see if this develops into a disaster or not. We don't know what's going to happen. Maybe this blob of heat will just push off in the opposite direction, because it hasn't happened yet. But evidently it's threatening to head up toward Greenland, the world's second largest ice sheet. And, you know, of course, the people in Europe, too, are suffering with this. Especially the elderly, the sick, the people who maybe need medications or have trouble breathing or whatever. And an awful lot of Europe doesn't have air conditioning, you know? And I mean, this is bad. This is very bad, this heat wave and the effects of it. Listen, thank you guys for listening to this episode. And we'll catch you again very, very soon. Bye-bye.